Now I would like to explain about the requirement of SA8000 for business relationship management. So before I go there, we need to know what is business relationships first. So the relationship between two organizations in business, we can say business relationships, and those who are related to my business, we have relationship in business, we can say business partners. In SA8000, there is a specific requirement for managing business partners. Before we go with how to manage a business partner in terms of SA8000 requirement, we can say who are the business partners, right? So if we say business partners, then they can be my supplier, can be my subcontractor, can be sub-supplier, like supplier of my supplier, maybe tier 2 supplier for me. So there can be other service provider as well, like we have labor provider, we have maybe security service provider, we may have like cleaning service provider. We can just understand from this figure that who are the examples of business partners. So in SA8000 system, not only to ensure human rights at your organization, but also need to manage your suppliers in a way that they also respects human rights. So the requirements of social requirement, if you say decent work requirement in SA8000 standard, from D1 to D7 is the criteria. Based on this criteria, you have to implement in your operation. Also, you have to make sure your supply chain and other business relationship also respect the same criteria. SA8000 standard set its specific requirement for the interactions with businesses, interactions with the business partners in the clause number M7, that is implementation of decent work criteria. So you already know there are two sections of the requirements. One is decent work criteria, another is management system criteria. So in management system criteria, we have M1 to M10. So M7 is implementation. In M7, specifically M7.4 talks about business partners interaction. Where there are interactions with business partners, these are the requirements. First of all, the requirement is the organization shall communicate and make sure the business partners are aware, understand the expectations of your organization, objectives of your organization, policy and procedures related to human rights of your organizations. So this is the first one, communication and awareness. The organization shall communicate the requirements of the organization's policy, procedure, objectives, etc. So the second requirement is the organization shall not set such terms and conditions that can undermine the ability of the business partners to respect the human rights or to continue responsible business. So it means the terms and condition of the business shall be in a way that is responsible business practice. So for example, if the organization is demanding like unusual delivery dates or unusual shipping dates of the products. For example, I need 10 days to produce these products, but if I order my supply chain, my supplier, that I have to get it by 5 days instead of 10 days, then these terms can force this business partner to perform excessive working hours, to perform maybe unauthorized subcontracting. So that can again create health and safety situation of the workers, that can create unethical business practice in the partnership. So they will not have such terms and condition in the business, so they have to make sure so that the organization shall not undermine the business partner's ability to comply. So if there are actual or potential risks associated in the supply chain related to any human rights, like the requirements of D1 to D7, if we talk about decent work criteria, if they have any risk, actual or potential risks associated there, then the organization shall support the business partners in ending the risks, preventing the risks where applicable, mitigating, and in case of actual risks is there, they have to cooperate, support for the remediation where and when it is applicable and appropriate. So then again, they have to minimize, I mean the organization who are implementing SA8000 standard shall minimize any type of administrative burden. Administrative burden, I mean like whatever the requirements we have in decent work criteria, so from D1 to D7, so if any of the code of conduct or any of the schemes or any of the certifications are already there, so whatever is my code of conduct, they are already implementing some of the standard or social like code of conduct, or they have their own code of conduct about all this, so then the organization will not come with the burden that they have to do something else. They have to do this one, that one, means it is a burden for them. Maybe the small company, they cannot afford this. So the organization will be responsible, that will act like a responsible manner, so that it is not going to be an administrative burden for this organization. And finally, closing the business relationship. So definitely when we start the business relationship, after evaluation and assessment, so again, we always have the door is open to close the business relationship. So the organization who is implementing SA8000 requirement or SA8000 standard, it is expected that they will act responsibly during closing the business relation as well. So it is not like the organization has a risks with human rights, or there are actual risk with human rights or potential risk with human rights, and I'm closing the business down. So close the relationship, terminate the relationship. This is not a responsible way. The standard requires that the organization shall act responsibly, and they will cooperate them to remediate the situation, to prevent the situation, to mitigate the situation. And termination of the business will be the last resort when the organization is not committed, when again and again they are not responding for preventing, or even if the organization is trying to provide support, but they are not really committed and not willing to take the support and close the issues, then only the last resort organization will go with the closing of the business. Now, what I discussed here is 7.4, M7.4. This is the specific requirement of SA8000 in terms of operational criteria of managing business partners. But in SA8000, it is expected that these operational criteria, this management of business partners, will be handled in an effective and efficient management system. So, what is that management system? That is the requirement of M1 to M10 of SA8000 standard. Now, if we try to connect the requirements of 7.4, managing the business partners in the business interactions, then we can explain the requirement like this. There are M1, M2 and M3. As I said, from M1 to M10, all the requirements are applicable for managing business partners. So now I would like to explain how this whole management system is connected with the requirement of business partners management. So these are the 10 clauses. So these three, first let us discuss. This is like the involvement and interaction of the top management, workers and stakeholders. So this is like a part of governance actually for the business management relation governance. So in this case, what is the relation with 7.4 if I want to explain the requirement of 7.4 and the link with M123? That link is, first of all, the organization top management shall set up their strategy about human rights for their own organization, for their business partners, means supply chain and other business relationship. So this is the first. They have to formulate their strategy first. And this strategy shall be integrated throughout their own business, supply chain and other business relationships. So after this, in this strategy, in this supply chain management or like business operations management or like business partners management, they have to know the expectation of the workers. Workers are the very important stakeholders, so they have to know the expectation of the workers and also integrate the expectations in the entire business operation, including business partners management. So this is where workers' involvement and integration is linked, connected with supplier, sub-supplier or other business partners management. So in M3, the organization shall draw their like other business partners, other stakeholders first, map other stakeholders first, that who are the stakeholders, and they have to know their expectation as well, like government, like we may talk about like customers. So they are also stakeholders here. What is their expectation? Like if we have a customer, like a brand who is importing or buying like products from us, so they have their own expectation regarding my supply chain, regarding my suppliers, from where I can buy, what will be the minimum criteria, right? So we need to map those like stakeholders, then we need to know their expectation. So, and we need to integrate their expectation also in my supplier management or business partners management strategy and business partners management policy, procedure, terms, condition, whatever we develop the system, policy, procedure, embed the system, we have to also integrate the expectations of other stakeholders. So this is what is in business partners relationship management system. The organization shall involve their top management in formulation of the strategy. They have to involve the workers by knowing their expectation and integrating the expectation in the process, and they have to map the other stakeholders, know their expectations, and also integrate their expectation in the requirement of 7.4 requirement. So what is, we know, business partners relationship management. Now let us talk about M4, M5 and M6. These three together we can say actually planning, how to control. The plan will be here. So in M4 we have to set our policies. Top management will set their commitment regarding their supply chain. Like in M4 entirely it is talking about their commitment, top management commitment towards human rights. So they will establish policies, procedures, processes and management system to manage their own operations, to manage their supply chain and other business partners. So in this case they will formulate the policy and procedure. So this will be their commitment, where they're like talking about what is their expectation in policies. So how will they manage them in procedure? So then in M5 the organization will map the supply chain. After mapping the supply chain, they will know who are they, from where they are, like what they are doing, what is their processes. So like what is their size, what is their ability, what is their geographical location, like all the contextual information like economic, social, political, technological, so context they will analyze. Based on the context, the organization will now go for risk assessment. As you already know that this standard SA8000 management system criteria, one of the baseline of this requirement is OECD due diligence framework. So from that OECD due diligence framework, actually you can see from M4 to M10 it is like a reflection of OECD framework. So in this 5, the organization shall go for risk assessment, means identification of the risks and assessment of the risks. And based on these risks, now in M6 the organization will set their objectives. So now as I am talking with only business partners management system, so this M1 to M10 is not only for business partners management, but also for own operations, business partners and other business relationship. So now we are only specific to business partner management. That's why I'm saying only specific one, that in M6 they will set the objective related to business relationship. So like business partners, you can say suppliers, subcontractors, sub-suppliers, labor providers, other service providers, any business relationship is there. So they have to set the objectives related to business partners. Based on what? The basis of this will be risk. So what are the actual and potential risk associated in my supply chain related to human rights? So they will try to end it or prevent it, mitigate it. Wherever there is an issue already there, remediate it, right? So for that, they will set the target here. So this is what is the planning control of management of business partners. Now, this plan is already there. At the end, in M6, they will set an action plan how to achieve the goal. Right? If we plan to remediate it, how to do it? If we plan that we need to prevent it, how to do it? So they will make an action plan. In this action plan, most important is they may need resources, what to do, how to do, when to do, who is responsible to do, and what are the resources needed to complete this action. So based on this action plan, now as it is already set, what to do? Maybe we need to provide training. Maybe we need to aware them. Maybe we need resources like human resources. So it can be infrastructural resources. So in 7, this is the implementation. As already you know that 7.4 is the requirement specific to operational criteria of business partners management. So I don't want to repeat again now, as we already discussed. This is the 4 where we will be connecting the operational criteria. On top of this, I want to add that in the action plan, if any resources are needed, like communication, like awareness, like human resource, like training, or any infrastructural resources needed, the top management shall provide the resources to make this action plan practically realized. So this is what is operational. Now come to M8 and M9. You know, here is the implementation thing going on. We are onboarding our the suppliers, sub-suppliers, then they are serving us. We are setting the objectives. Based on the objectives, we are going to take action. So sometimes we are eliminating, sometimes we are preventing, some remediation action is there. So we have all this data shall be transparently maintained with integrity. So again, we also need to have our own monitoring system in place, that from the monitoring system, we will monitor their social performance. Where are they? We have our own operation also. Same thing we will have for the supply chain as well. So we will monitor their performance continuously or periodically. So this monitoring data will be also kept with integrity. So no falsification will be there in the information. So we will keep all the data. Now another part is M9. M9 talks about grievance mechanism. So M9 actually, as you know, the whole standard, M9 is a requirement for entire management system. So for their own operation, for their supply chain and business partners, the organization shall establish, implement and maintain an effective operational level grievance mechanism for both the internal stakeholders, like in their own operation, also for the business partners it shall be also for external stakeholders, so that these business partners are coming under the scope of this grievance mechanism. They will also have inclusive channel for to reach the management with grievances, if any concerns, if any comments, if any feedback, or they have like complaints or grievances, they can reach the management. So it is not only for their own workers or management, it is also shall be inclusive for their suppliers, sub-suppliers, any other stakeholders they are involved in the whole supply chain, and if any stakeholders. So they will receive it, they will also respond when it is relevant, they have to respond it, they have to address, if any concerns are raised, they have to resolve also. So this is what is the requirement of grievance mechanism in line with business partners management. So lastly, the one M10 is talking about the requirement of improvement. So in SA8000 standard, this is like M10 applicable for all this D1 to D7, means decent work criteria. So the expectation is the management system will improve continually. So how? What is the connectivity with business partners management system? So in business partners management system, the requirement is the organization shall analyze the data. Like if you remember M8, we collected a lot of data, implementation data, so monitoring data, the performance data. Again, we collected in grievance mechanism, we have a lot of data, grievances we received from business partners, maybe workers of the business partners, maybe other stakeholders related to business partners, maybe internal workers also raise a grievances related to our suppliers. So that can be, buyer can also raise a grievance against the suppliers. So all these grievances, like all the monitoring data, all the implementation data, risk assessment, the action taken against the risk assessment, all these data shall be analyzed periodically. So then this summary of the data shall be reported to top management for review. So top management will review all this data related to the performance of business partners, and they will decide if any further action needed, if any resources needed to manage them well, or it is already satisfactory. If it is satisfactory already, then they can make their next strategy for continual improvement. They can set their next strategy how to control them or manage them better. So otherwise, if any gap they identify in the review system, once they review the performance, if they identify any gap, then they will recommend based on the root cause analysis, they will recommend what to do, when to do, whom to do, how to do, right? So this action will be again planned for taking action because we didn't achieve our goal we set here in 6, the objectives we set, we didn't achieve, so that they can recommend what are the actions to be taken, if any processes needed to update, if any policy needed to be updated, if any resources to be provided, so they will provide them and they will go for the new planning for achieving a better result in managing the business partners. So I think this is all about this business partners management in terms of SA8000 requirement. Not forget this criteria, this is management system criteria, but when we are talking about the performance, that is obviously decent work performance criteria that is requires in D1 to D7 of the standard. That's all.